Hello. This is a video that I'm putting together to announce my latest YouTube project, which I might put on YouTube competitors, but I might not. I might put on my competitors, but one argument against that is right now I have a limit to how many gigabytes or megabytes of data I can put onto YouTube's competitors. With Vimeo, it is 500 megabytes. What Vimeo is waiting for me to do so that they will upgrade me is give them money that I don't feel like I can afford to do right now. If somebody likes my videos and they want to be the one to pay for me to get upgraded there, I'm not going to get in the way. Now VidMe, what they do, my limit there is 5 gigabytes. So if I put it on one of those two, I'm more likely to put my videos there where I am reading directly from an Islamic book. Vimeo holds me to 5 gigabytes, and what they're waiting for is me to have enough followers that they decide it's worth the hassle and the space on their computers to let me put big videos on. The whole point of VidMe is it's a website to watch videos. And they don't want their computers being tied up with people who have nobody watching their videos putting big videos up. That's reasonable, I can understand. So if you like my YouTube channel, get a VidMe account and be a follower on VidMe, and you'll help me to get my limits erased or lifted. So, I already said it, I'm going to read an Islamic book. Why am I going to do that, you might ask? Well, one reason is I'm obeying the golden rule. In the New Testament, Jesus said, "Whatsoever you would that men should do unto you, do ye unto them likewise." So, in other words, I should do to you, I should do to everybody, first, what I hope they do to me. And when it comes to the issue of religion, I don't want people lying about my religion. I don't want people passing along unreliable information about my religion. I want them to read my religion's scriptures, my religion's official books to find out what I believe. I don't want them reading Mormon doctrine. That book's not in print. I breathed a great sigh of relief a few years ago when someone close to me was talking about buying me my own copy of Mormon doctrine and found out it was out of print. When Mormon doctrine was a brand new book, there were grumblings, there were official statements by the church pointing out that that was just Bruce R. McConkie's book and not an official book from the church. Okay, so that's one of my reasons. The other reason is Islam is a big religion in a way of total followers. And there are a lot of dead people now on this earth because Muslims claiming to obey the religion, or people claiming to be Muslims and claiming to obey the religion, were killing people. Now, were they following that religion or not? A person's opinion about what our immigration laws should be could be affected by what the religion teaches. It doesn't matter to me how your religion tells you to pray, if you're a polytheist or not, if there are certain foods that you believe God doesn't want you to eat, if you want to wear, if your religion teaches you to wear clothes that are a certain way or a certain kind of clothes, all of those things should have absolutely zero effect on whether somebody is allowed to enter the country or not, whether they're allowed to practice their religion. If you want to open a bakery or a flower shop and you don't want to bring flowers to my wedding, and because you don't want to encourage me in my religion, and that's your religious belief, that's fine. You should not be touched or hurt at all by the government for that. You're not hurting me. But you are hurting me if your religion tells you to fight me and kill me for not believing. It hurts a little bit if you're hurting me. So if a religion teaches that, then it might be a good idea to not let them in. How would we know if a religion teaches that? Read the book. Don't read what somebody who follows that religion but doesn't follow what it says. Somebody who's a member of that religion. There are people who are members of religion that don't follow it. The point of my videos isn't to embarrass people and name names, but I have met Mormons who drank and smoked things that Mormons are taught not to do. There are Mormons who have had sex that we're not supposed to have, that the church teaches not to have. There are Mormons who have laughed at family members when they shouldn't have been laughing at family members. There are Mormons who don't go to church every week like they're supposed to. There are Mormons who, so just because somebody's a member of the church doesn't mean they know the teachings accurately, doesn't mean they obey everything that the religion teaches. So we should not judge or think to ourselves, well, I've met a Muslim who wasn't doing this, that must mean that's what the religion teaches. No, that Muslim not doing this might be living different than what his religion teaches, different than what his books teach. So how do we know? Let's read the book. Hey, yeah, let's us read the book. I'll do the reading, and you listen to me read while you're driving, if you've got a strong enough internet signal while you're driving. I'll do the reading, you listen to me while you're doing the dishes. You listen to me while you're playing a video game. Listen to me while you're doing something else instead of reading the book. I don't read Arabic. I'm a native English speaker, so I'm going to be reading it in English. Whatever book I end up reading. Now, I asked people on the internet. I got one response on my YouTube video. It was viewed 20-something times. One person had an opinion about which book I should read, and they wrote the Quran. Well, they didn't write it. On my video, I wrote 4 different things, and people were supposed to click a thumbs up for which one of those things they thought was, which of those books they thought was most important. And the Quran got 1 thumbs up. I've got Muslim coworkers who are not obeying the Quran, and they're going to burn in hell according to the Quran. That's just what the Quran says, not what I'm saying. But everyone I asked said the Quran is more important to read than the other books. What are the other options that I have available? Well, let's go over it. The Quran, Muslims believe that it was revelation given from God to Muhammad. What a Muslim might tell you is the man God used to found Islam. What a non-believer would say is the founder of Islam. And he was a prophet for 20 or 30 years or so. And these revelations, keep coming. It's not all in one day. The whole book came to him. Chapter here, chapter there. And one thing the Quran does not do is give you backstory. It doesn't let you know why something was given. What else was happening at the time a revelation was given. Tafsir does that. So that's another option for an Islamic book for me to read, is Tafsir. The earliest known biography of Muhammad was written by Ibn Ishaq. But that book is, for some reason, Muslims aren't as as excited about reading that book as Mormons are about reading the biography of Joseph Smith Jr. written by Lucy Mack Smith, his mother. One of these days I'm going to get that book to read it. Ibn Ishaq lived about 100 and something years after Muhammad's death. So it's not written by somebody who was with Muhammad, but it's the earliest we have. Now, Hadith. This is the one I was thinking I would most like to read, but everybody I asked said read the Quran, not the Hadith. What are the Hadith? Hadith are, sometimes you hear people say ahadith, because the Arabic way to pluralize something is to say ah in front of it. And whereas in French, Spanish, and English you put an S at the back of it. Or in French sometimes it's an X instead of an S. In Arabic you put ah in front of it. Hadith, ahadith. These are the stories of what actually happened to Muhammad, his life. But it wasn't written when he was alive. It wasn't written by people who were there when Muhammad was alive, who knew Muhammad but outlived him. Which is one reason or one argument where I would make that even if Muhammad was a true prophet that received some inspiration, his stuff wasn't written down right away. People, when they memorize things, they memorize different. They don't memorize things the same. Things change if you're trusting people's memory. Sometimes on sitcoms, you'll have two people arguing about what a song says because they memorized the song and they didn't write it down, and they thought they heard something different. So that's one reason to be skeptical that even if Muhammad was a true prophet, that we got everything correct, passed down to us correctly the way he said it. Anyway, these hadith are newer, younger than the biography of Muhammad by Ibn Ishaq. They're several hundred years after Muhammad died, and they aren't just recording, stories that were written down. It's not a copying of a book written in Muhammad's lifetime. This is an oral tradition that finally got put to paper. It got put to paper by people who spent many years collecting literally thousands of stories. And they had to come up with a grading system. There are so many stories. How are they going to decide which stories are trustworthy and which stories are ones that you're going to, put on the list because somebody said it, but you're going to say, probably not true, this one. They came up with a grading system, and I'm sorry I don't have the 5 different grade names memorized, but there are 5 different grades. Of course, the worst means you can't trust it at all, but somebody said it, so we might as well write it down. The highest, most trustworthy grade is named Sahih, and those are the most trustable ones. But the rating system for which one is Sahih and which one is not Sahih is what is the chain of transmission. Who heard Muhammad say it? Who did they say it? Who did they say it to? Who did they say it to? One reason for us to be skeptical that the Hadith got everything right about Muhammad is if you know that that's how they're grading these things, and you want to make up a story, what's to keep you from making up the gradings, making up along with your made-up story, a made-up chain of transmission that's got the right names in it, that's got the real people's names in it. The different Hadith collections are enormous, like 7 or 9 different books, and we're not talking about magazine-thin books, but good thick books, or at least medium thickness books for these different Hadith collections. Sahih Bukhari is one of the ones that's most trustworthy. Sahih Muslim is another one. But since if everyone have asked, said read the Quran, I'm probably going to read the Quran. Probably. Yeah, I'm going to read the Quran. Even though that literally gives me a headache sometimes. It's not well written. It doesn't flow. It's not poetic and beautiful. It's something else. But that's what people are recommending. I'm going to go with it. But one reason I was thinking I'd like to read the Hadith is there are things that just aren't in the Quran. Things that are fundamental to Islam. How to pray. How many times to pray. How much of a fine should a non-Muslim in a Muslim land have to pay? How big of a tax do a Muslim in a Muslim land pay for the caliphate to conquer the world? Different stories about Muhammad and how he interacted with his wives aren't there. The tafsir that I mentioned earlier probably got to use the hadith as their source. The hurry, the sex toys, that's what they are. If you don't like me calling them that, explain to me what other word do I describe something that has a female body, that's perfectly proportioned, that only looks at the man that it's assigned to. And it's not a human being from the earth that went through the process of living on this earth like a wife is. But the Quran lets us know some details about the hurry, but it doesn't tell us how many hurry there are. So I would like to read the Hadith, and I'm going to eventually read them. I would like to read it for this project, but I'll go with the Quran since everyone says to read the Quran. I already have the Quran. I don't have any Hadith yet. But they're on my Christmas wish list. And because of the miracle of electronic books, somebody doesn't have to spend the hundreds of dollars that it takes to buy, 9 paper books this thick. They could get me the electronic version for a dramatic savings in the cost. But one fact about the Quran is it has contradictory things. And I'm not saying that as a put down, it's just a fact that there are verses in the Quran that say fight people just because they don't believe. And there are other verses that say, to your religion, you, to me religion, mine, I'm not going to change, you're not going to change, leave it at that. Well, when there's a difference like that, which one do you go with? Well, the more recent one. The more recent one cancels out the older one. Now, somebody is saying, but it was all 1400 years ago. Yeah, if you're giving a rough estimate of things, 1 year is not a big difference if you're just wanting to know about how long ago something was when we're talking about thousands of years ago. For example, I'm a Christian, more specifically of the Mormon sect or branch of Christianity, and I summarize something in hundreds of years or thousands of years sometimes instead of nitpicking and, filling in the tens and the ones column on the numbers. I'll say sometimes the original copy of the Book of Mormon was buried about 1600 years ago instead of getting out a paper and calculating exactly 1598 or 1640. But when it matters to which one came later because it cancels out the other one, there's a difference between 1400 years ago and 1401 years ago. So I'm going to try to find out which book, which surah. The Quran's divided up into 2 subdivisions, surah and ayah. I don't know whether to say the surah are more comparable to a chapter or a book if you're comparing it to the way the Bible is organized, because the Bible has 3 or 4 subdivisions. 4 if you count Old and New Testament, 3 if you're not counting Old and New Testament as one of the subdivisions. So I'm going to try to find a website that lets you know which order the surah were revealed in. And I promise you, I'm going to be reading from the book so we know what it says. I might throw comments in. It's going to be mostly me reading from the book. But if I throw my own comment in, I'm going to try to make it obvious that I'm saying what I'm thinking, and that I'm not, that's not the Quran you're hearing when I make my own comments. So I'm going to say things like, I think, and I'm thinking about even making up a little sign that I'll hold up when I've taken a break from reading the Quran and sharing a thought I have about it. So thank you for watching. You have a good day and look forward to my new project starting very soon.